Welcome to Sports Talk Live on Orange Heat. I'm Giovanni Heater, your host, and thank you so much for being here. Now, once again, Sports Talk Live, a brand new radio show here on Orange Heat that I'm hosting on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and Twitch. So some updates to the format, a new introduction to the show, Sports Talk Live. So thank you again so much for tuning in. Now, happy Monday. Second edition of Sports Talk Live, and a lot happened in the world of sports over the weekend. We're going to dive into all of it, but first, I feel like it is extremely appropriate to mention that obviously it is Martin Luther King Jr. Day here in the United States of America, and I wanted to give a little bit of background on the history of such a holiday. So after years of campaigning by activists, members of Congress, and Coretta Scott King, in 1983, President Ronald Reagan signed a bill creating a United States federal holiday in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Observed on the third Monday of January, Martin Luther King Day was first celebrated on January 20th, 1986. He was a civil rights leader. He delivered the very famous I Had a Dream speech, the March on Washington, and he was unfortunately assassinated on April 4th, 1968 in Memphis, Tennessee. He fought for social justice, and I believe it's very relevant to the battles that we are seeing now in a fight for social justice. And it's also very relevant to the sports world because you see all of these athletes making their voices heard, using their platform. It's history, and it is very necessary. It needs to be done. And Martin Luther King Jr. paved the way for the things you see now, not only in the world of sports, but in the world in a fight for social justice. So let's talk about sports. I just wanted to definitely mention that, give a little bit of background on the history of it. Just very important day in America, especially with what we're seeing in 2020 and now into 2021. So I'm going to start out. Let's talk about the top headlines on this beautiful Monday in January. Obviously, today, the date, January 1st, January 18th, 2021. Let's talk about the top headlines today in sports. So first off, you have to talk about the Final Four in the National Football League. The two conference championships are set. It's the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC. It's the Bills traveling to Kansas City to play at Arrowhead Stadium against the Chiefs. A lot of storylines to go with down that, and we'll get into it, trust me. And then in the NFC, it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Green Bay Packers playing in Lambeau Field. Hopefully snowy conditions. What a beautiful scene it would be. And so much goes into all of this, right? And we're going to dive into it throughout the show and especially towards the end of the show. So don't want to get too hasty with it just yet. But here's one statement that I will say before we really get into the nitty-gritty of it throughout the week as well. This is the GOATs, the greatest of all time, possibly, of the new generation, the new era of football. Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes, already an MVP, already a Super Bowl MVP. Josh Allen looks on his way to possibly being an MVP quarterback and has a chance to bring the Buffalo Bills to a Super Bowl this year. Two of the best of the new era going at it in a conference championship in the AFC. And then in the NFC, it's two of the best to do it in the previous era, Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. So just this is special. This is not every year's conference championship games. This is not every year's Super Bowl matchup. And it has a lot to do with the fact that 2020, everything that went down with COVID, remarkable that we're able to get to this point with the season, just absolutely sensational, right? If you told me that we'd play playoff football the day that it was scheduled to be played before the season had even started, I probably would have told you you're crazy. Nonetheless, the NFL made it work. There was football Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, every day of the week. And we're here. And it's conference championship week. And this is history. This is a special weekend of football we will see. Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen going at it. Hopefully Patrick Mahomes. And I'm a Bills fan, but I want to see Patrick Mahomes play. And then you have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers led by Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers leading the Green Bay Packers. And absolutely sensational what Tom Brady has done in Tampa Bay. It has turned into the Tom Brady organization. It's not necessarily the Bruce Arians organization anymore. And I think the best thing that he has done is step back. and let Tom Brady take the reins, because he's that guy for all those players to look to. Something goes down, he's that guy for those players to look to, and it's incredible. So there's a lot of success, and the NFL has 2 fantastic games coming up this weekend. That's headline number 1. The Final Four is set. It's the Bills and the Chiefs and the Bucs and the Packers. Okay, next headline, Deshaun Watson wants out of Houston, and it's a corrupt franchise. So much to unpack with this. And throughout the week as it develops, we're going to get into it. And this will be a conversation that lasts forever. This is going to be the head story of this offseason in the National Football League. Is Deshaun Watson, where will Deshaun Watson end up playing next fall? And we'll talk about it all year. But I have a lot to unpack with that on today's show, so stay tuned for that. Deshaun Watson wants out of Houston, and it's a corrupt franchise. Next headline, Drew Brees farewell. Did we see the last of Drew Brees on Sunday night when Tom Brady and Drew Brees did battle at the Superdome in the Big Easy, New Orleans, Louisiana? What a career for Drew Brees. What a career. The all-time leader in passing yards for the National Football League, 3rd in all-time touchdowns, literally one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever hit the field. Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP, National Football League regular season MVP, literally one of the best to do it. And it'd be sad to see the career end, 100%, no doubt about it, but it's getting to be that time where it's like time is time. And you're not trying to take anything away from Drew Brees, but I think he knows it very well. There were 2 quarterbacks that did battle last night. One still has it. One still can consistently deliver and win games and throw the ball 45, 50 yards down the field. And one just can't do it anymore. And it's not to knock Drew Brees' career. One of the best ever. But it's getting to be that time. It was almost that time last season. He came back for what looked to be one more go-around for it. And he talked about it in the press conference. He said he's going to, evaluate. He's going to reflect on this season, the previous seasons, and the future for both him and his family. But the overall belief around the NFL and the media is that Drew Brees probably took his last snaps on Sunday night. And if they had won, it would have been his last game at the Superdome. So that's Drew Brees. Our next headline, Chargers hire Brandon Staley, and he's the Los Angeles Rams defensive coordinator. And here's the thing with that. Great hire, first of all. Fantastic hire. One of the best defensive coordinators in the National Football League. It's a little bit of a wild card because I think there were better candidates out there that the Chargers could have hired. And I think the number 1 frontrunner for it would have been Brian Daboll from Buffalo. And I liked that Brian Daboll matchup for the Chargers because the Chargers are an offensive-minded team. They have Keenan Allen at wide receiver. They have new star, future MVP Justin Herbert throwing the football. And yes, I think that Justin Herbert will be that good. I think the Chargers are on the rise. Watch the Chargers make a playoff run next season. I'm serious about that. Got to tighten things up defensively a little bit, but they got Bosa. They have a lot of talent. Offense is explosive. They can throw the football with that kid, Justin Herbert. Had one of the best rookie seasons in NFL history, despite their record. So I think Brian Daboll would have been the better matchup for the Chargers because Brian Daboll is an offensive coordinator. He's an offensive-minded coach. That doesn't mean that they can't bring in a fantastic coordinator and that Brandon Staley can't have success. He certainly can, and maybe that was the best move because you bring in a coordinator and really you look for Staley to construct the defense, and the defense is what really needs the tightening up to make that team successful. So it's a double-edged sword. You can look at it 2 ways, essentially. But what this means is fantastic for the Buffalo Bills because the Chargers are, they're going to do their thing, but it looks like Brian Daboll is going to be the offensive coordinator of the Buffalo Bills next season, which nobody thought was going to happen, including myself earlier this week. I thought Brian Daboll was gone. I thought his bags were packed and that he was going to be the coach somewhere. I didn't know if it was Jacksonville, then they got Urban Meyer. Didn't know if it was the Jets, and then they go ahead and they get their coach, right? They get rid of Adam Gase. They pick up their new head coach. Everything's good and smiles for the New York Jets as of right now. Then I thought it's the Chargers, and I thought it was the optimal matchup for him to go to the Chargers. Justin Herbert's very similar to Josh Allen in a lot of ways, and he could really develop things there. Justin Herbert has his digs, quote unquote, in Keenan Allen, and they have a lot of talent on that team. It's not just Keenan Allen either, because if you think that Big Mike can't catch a football, one of the best in the NFL to do it, Mike Williams. So what this means for the Buffalo Bills is that the success can continue and that they most likely do not need to go out and find an offensive coordinator. And Brian Daboll is probably the best offensive coordinator in the National Football League right now with what he's been able to do with the Buffalo Bills. So this is absolutely huge. Buffalo fans are ecstatic about it. Chargers fans are excited about their new hire. Again, Brandon Staley, a great hire for them. But Brian Daboll most likely to stay in Buffalo. Now, a destination spot possible for him is Houston. But I don't think that you'll see him go to Houston because, first of all, nobody wants anything to do with Houston right now. Clearly, organizationally, and at the higher-ups in the front offices, there's problems. That's what you see Deshaun Watson preaching about, and we'll dive into that. That's what you saw DeAndre Hopkins wanting out for. Not the place to be. Now, I think the most likely hire for the Houston Texans would be defensive coordinator of the Buffalo Bills, Leslie Frazier. Same team, defensive side of the ball. Because Leslie Frazier has that experience as a head coach in the National Football League, what they'd be more likely to do is go find a former head coach and take that route instead of Daboll. And I don't think Daboll wants anything to do with that. His biggest interviews and constant communication was with the Chargers and a little bit with the Jets as well. Minimal with the Houston Texans. So we'll see how all that develops, but it looks like as of right now on Monday, Brian Daboll will be the offensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills going forward and into next season, which Bills fans, including myself, are ecstatic about. So let's move on to our next headline here. And it's a big one. It's a big one. A possible recruiting scandal within college football. Tennessee fires head coach Jeremy Pruitt. Head coach Jeremy Pruitt today after there's an ongoing investigation. It's an internal investigation. The NCAA not involved at this time. Internal investigation in recruiting violations, which could be massive for Tennessee as they're trying to build up a program. Jeremy Pruitt went 16-19 in 3 seasons as the head coach and Rocky Top for the Tennessee Volunteers. So not necessarily bad news for them that they get rid of Jeremy Pruitt. He didn't seem to be the answer, but a recruiting scandal is the last thing Tennessee needs right now. You're talking anything from scholarship sanctions. You're talking taking wins away. You're talking postseason bans. You're talking a long list of what can go on for Tennessee. Now, right now, it's not an NCAA investigation. It's an internal investigation. Possibly if they punish themselves and then the NCAA doesn't get involved as far as punishments go, kind of taking initiative and admitting your fault first is what Tennessee's trying to do, it seems to be, but not good news in Rocky Top for the Tennessee Volunteers. Our final headline. Sean McVay is vague on Jared Goff's future as the Los Angeles Rams starting quarterback. He states everything is being evaluated, and that includes the quarterback position. Now, Jared Goff was not fantastic this year. I'll admit it. But at the same time, he took that team to a Super Bowl just a couple of years ago, and at that time was one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League. So Goff has some talent to him. There's no doubt about it. Do I think that he is very good? No, I don't. I think there's a lot of better quarterbacks in the NFL for him. Do I think the LA Rams would benefit from investing in another quarterback? Yes. I think Goff is very comparable to Sam Darnold and the New York Jets. I really do. Yes, he took that team to a Super Bowl. Yes, he had a deep playoff run. But I think as far as their play styles and what they accomplish statistically, they're pretty comparable. So that's not to say he's not going to be the starting quarterback next year. Very well could. But as of right now, Sean McVay was very vague on it and didn't seem certain, and everything is being evaluated, including the quarterback position. So before we dive into anything, we're going to take a quick 30-second break here. This is Sports Talk Live on Orange Heat. We'll be right back. Welcome back here to Sports Talk Live on Orange Sheet. I'm your host, Giovanni Heater. Thanks so much for tuning in. Again, we open up the phone lines, call in, and talk sports. Click the link down below in the description. Again, you call in, I'll add the audio, and we'll chat it up, talk about whatever I'm talking about. A lot of NFL today to unpack, to say the least, but go ahead, click that link, and call in if you'd like. I'd love to have the guests. We had a bunch last time, so go ahead, click that link in the description if you're on Facebook Live and if you're on YouTube Live, and go ahead and call in. Another thing to announce, again, go ahead to accessoryspot.com. That's accessoryspot.com and pick up your very own Orange Heat with Giovanni Heater t-shirt. Right here. Go to accessoryspot.com and pick up your Orange Heat t-shirt. And thank you again for all those that have and that continue to do so. It's a big support to the show. The merch selling allows us to expand and invest in everything possible, like the new setup you see here. There's a lot more we do with it on the play-by-play side of things, just because there is more that you can do with it on the play-by-play side of things. But this, things like this platform, everything definitely costs money. So the more shirts that get sold, the more we can do with Orange Heat. So go ahead and go to accessoryspot.com. That's accessoryspot.com and pick up your Orange Heat with Giovanni Heater t-shirt today. Okay, thank you for everybody tuning in, and let's get into our show. We gave you the headlines. We talked about it. Just a quick run over of them. It was the Final Four set. Bills and Chiefs in the AFC, Bucks, Packers in the NFC. It was Deshaun Watson wants out of Houston. It was Drew Brees' possible farewell. It was the Chargers hiring Brandon Staley, and it was Tennessee firing Jeremy Pruitt in the recruiting investigation. And then it's Sean McVay on the future of Jared Goff at quarterback in Los Angeles. So the first topic of conversation I really want to get into today has to be Deshaun Watson and the Houston Texans. And there's a lot to unpack with this. Many around the Texans organization believe that Watson has taken his last snaps as a Houston Texans starting quarterback. That is the belief right now across the entire National Football League, around the media. That's the belief, that he is done as the starting quarterback of the Houston Texans. Watson is upset about their process in hiring new general manager, which they did just hire Nick Caserio as the new GM, and they have not yet named a head coach of the Houston Texans. That's an ongoing process. Watson also upset about the treatment of the players within the organization. It goes down to many, many different levels, from being promised things and not getting those promises, not necessarily being handed the keys to the kingdom like he was promised, not getting a say in what they do in the draft and free agency, just really feeling like he has no impact on the team besides taking snaps at quarterback. And then there's other things that go into it. They mentioned possible how they racially treat their players, and not a lot of information about that. So I don't want to dive too deep into it, but it was mentioned in a couple of the write-ups and as well on ESPN and a couple of other platforms. So he's also upset about the departure of offensive-minded head coach Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien served as the general manager and the head coach of the Houston Texans, and he actually clicked with Watson a lot. He's an offensive mind. You see him being hired by Nick Saban as the offensive coordinator at Alabama. Did he have optimal success there? No. But they made the playoffs. They made a run in the playoffs. Deshaun Watson loved that style of play. Deshaun Watson loved having a guy, DeAndre Hopkins, to throw the football to. Bill O'Brien being sent away did not please Deshaun Watson. Watson not returning calls right now from the organization at all. Houston Texans personnel calling him. He's not returning calls. He's not returning text, really separating himself from the situation right now. It's interesting. And here's the difference. This is not an ego situation. I cannot emphasize that enough. This is not James Harden and the National Basketball Association. This is not an ego situation. This is the organization of the Houston Texans being corrupt and failing at what they are doing. Plain and simple. This is not Deshaun Watson. This is the Houston Texans, and I 100% believe in that. And I think Deshaun Watson is actually a great class act. Very involved in charity. Deshaun Watson is always been respectful, not a talker, nothing. Plays good football. This is the Houston Texans, without a doubt in my mind. The crazy thing about this is turning into an NBA situation. And what I mean by that is you see Kevin Durant choosing to go to Golden State. You see LeBron choosing to go to Los Angeles. You see Harden choosing to go to play for the Brooklyn Nets. The list goes on and on. The NBA is very, very different in free agency and trading than the NFL and essentially any other professional league. Deshaun Watson is changing the game in that. He has the power to both request a trade and also withhold his services due to his contract. He can either demand a trade, and if they don't trade him, he can just withhold his services and say, I'm not going to play, plain and simple. The Houston Texans have their back against the wall. Deshaun Watson will not play football for the Houston Texans next year. I can guarantee you that. And everybody in NFL media and executives will agree with you on that. Deshaun Watson has taken his last snaps as a Houston Texan. So this is all due to a no trade clause in his contract. So the Houston Texans have very little control over this. Essentially what this means is the Texans can make any trade proposition to Deshaun that they want. The other team can approve it. It can be this close to going through. And plain and simple, Deshaun Watson just can say, I'm not going to go play for them. I'll just stop my services. I just won't go play for them. If he wants to go to Miami and they're trying to send him to go to Minnesota, he can just say, I don't want to play there. And that's just very broad. I literally just named 2 random teams, right? That is not specific. That is just random teams. But he has that power in this situation right now where it is all in his hands. He literally will tell them where he wants to go. And Houston has little to no control over the situation. So essentially, he can pick where he wants to play football next season. And this is going to be an ongoing story this entire offseason. This is going to be the biggest story of the offseason this year is Deshaun Watson, the Houston Texans, this situation, and where Deshaun Watson will play football next year. And most importantly, besides that, what is Houston going to get in return? Because again, Deshaun can really screw the Houston Texans here, or he can be kind, and it really just depends where he wants to go more than anything. Because if he wants to go play for the New York Jets, well, they have the second pick. That's easy. They're going to trade the second pick. If he wants to go play in Jacksonville, they'll trade the first pick. And we'll get into that later this week. I'm going to talk about the top 5 destinations for Deshaun Watson, possible destinations, top 5 later this week. And some things will shock you, but I will go out and say, a very possible destination would be Urban Meyer and the Jacksonville Jaguars actually trading the number 1 pick to Houston, Houston drafting Trevor Lawrence, and Deshaun Watson starting at quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars next year. It's about success now. It's not about success 20 years from now. Not 20 years from now, 5 years from now, say. But Deshaun Watson can play now. Everyone knows that Deshaun Watson can play now. This has the opportunity to be the biggest trade in NFL history because this will be the first time that a young quarterback drafted in just 2017. This is his 4th year in the NFL. Drafted in 2017, a young quarterback who's an absolute star would be traded like this. It's game-changing. This changes the NFL. This is the first trade of this caliber at this time in a player's career, and Deshaun Watson will get to pick where he wants to go. Again, later this week, keep tuning in because we're going to go through the top 5 destinations of where you could see Deshaun Watson next week. Again, this is Deshaun Watson's 4th season. 4,823 passing yards this season. That's number 1 in the National Football League. He led MVP candidates Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Tom Brady, everybody. He had more passing yards than anybody in the National Football League, and that is absolutely incredible. 33 touchdowns on the year, that's 7th in the NFL, 7 interceptions. He's an absolute star. And here's my hot take on Deshaun Watson. He's a future MVP. He's a future Super Bowl champion and a possible Hall of Famer. And it all depends on where he goes. Because Houston is not the spot for him, and he's not rotting there, but he's not even in his prime yet. But he's wasting early portions of his career. If he still had Bill O'Brien and he still had DeAndre Hopkins, it would be a different story. But because of the corruptness of the Houston Texans, the game is changing for Deshaun Watson. And I'm under the belief that every single team in the National Football League should make him an offer, except these teams. Cleveland, I wouldn't have said that a month ago. But what they have in Baker Mayfield, Kevin Stefanski, the man for the job. What he has in Baker Mayfield is sensational. You saw how he's played throughout these playoffs in the last stretch of the season. You saw how he played against Kansas City. That's a top-level quarterback. And Baker Mayfield is a keeper for the Cleveland Browns. I wouldn't have said that a month ago. He's proven himself, and he's matured as a person and a player. He's not the same guy that they drafted 3 years ago in 2018. He's not. He's very much so grown up in the league, and he's really developed into a fantastic quarterback. Cleveland shouldn't indulge. Buffalo shouldn't indulge. They have their quarterback of the future in Josh Allen, MVP candidate in the Final Four. There's no doubt about that. Josh Allen's the future in Buffalo. Kansas City should not. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes. Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers is probably going to play for another 5-6 years. So Green Bay's out of the question. Tampa Bay, depending on the timetable for Tom Brady. What you have in Tom Brady right now is fantastic. Tom Brady's not going to go start over again somewhere else. It's not going to happen. So right now is just not the best time for Tampa Bay. You hope Tom Brady plays longer than a couple of years so that it makes it worth your while. And what they have in Tom is obviously doesn't get any better. He's the GOAT. Seattle, you have Russell Wilson. He plans on playing for a long time. Played elite quarterback, was an MVP candidate as the season went on. Yes, there were struggles, but they were struggles defensively, and he'll be better. Don't you worry. The Baltimore Ravens, I think they have the future in Lamar Jackson. The difference between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and Baker Mayfield is Baker has someone to throw the ball to. In fact, a lot of guys. Lamar Jackson has Stephon Diggs to throw the ball to. That's why he's an MVP candidate. Josh Allen's really, really good. Really, really good. And they work well together. So I'm under the belief that Diggs is what he is because of Josh Allen, because he didn't have a quarterback in Minnesota, and he wasn't the same player. So Diggs is what he is because of Allen. Allen's what he is partially because of Stephon Diggs. Now, Allen throws the ball to other targets. You're talking John Brown. You're talking Cole Beasley. You're talking Gabriel Davis, Isaiah McKenzie, Dawson Knox. The list goes on and on. They are the deepest team at wide receiver in the National Football League. There's no doubt about it. That's why they tied the NFL record for 13 touchdowns thrown to 13 different guys. Incredible. That's an NFL record. So Buffalo doesn't need him. Baltimore doesn't need him because Lamar Jackson's that good. Arizona doesn't need him because they have Kyler Murray. Every other team in the NFL that's left, and there's like 25 teams left that I didn't mention on that list, should try and make an offer, do everything to go get Deshaun Watson. Because Deshaun Watson can bring you a future MVP, a Super Bowl ring, and so much more. Deshaun Watson will be one of the best out of this era in the NFL, and every team should be licking their chops, clamoring over trying to going to get Deshaun Watson. And yes, that means giving up the first overall draft pick. That means giving up the second overall draft pick. That means giving up some of the talent that you have in a trade. Yes, it is worth it. You need to go get Deshaun Watson if you're in an organization, because this has turned out to be a coaching quarterback relationship league. That's what this league has turned into. You have the coach and you have the quarterback, you find success. No doubt about it. And I could give you a million examples and run down the table. So if you find a place, say Jacksonville with the coach and Urban Meyer, you get the quarterback and Deshaun Watson, Super Bowl. There it is. There it is. We'll take another 30-second break here. We'll be right back here on Orange Heat. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sports Talk Live on Orange Heat. Welcome back here on Sports Talk Live via Orange Heat. My name is Giovanni Heater. Thanks so much for tuning in. As always, again, head over to accessoryspot.com, XESSORY.com, and go ahead and pick up your Orange Heat with Giovanni Heater t-shirt. Again, thank you so much for all that, guys. What you guys do helps make this show elevated to the level that it's become and beyond. So I'm very grateful. Thank you guys for the support as always. Now, I want to acknowledge some of these comments, and we're going to get into our next segment again. I want to talk divisional playoff games, and I want to talk about the AFC, NFC championship a little bit. But let's go ahead and acknowledge some of these questions. So someone says, do you think that Syracuse can beat Miami by at least 6? Tough. I have not done my research on Miami yet. I'm calling the game tomorrow night. Go ahead and tune in right here on Orange Heat via Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and what is it called? It's Twitch. Sorry about that. It's my first time using it, actually. Never had it before. Do I think Miami can fall to Syracuse by 6? Sure. I think Syracuse is explosive offensively. They need to rebound the basketball. Plain and simple. Again, I haven't done my prep for that game. I'll have my prep going forward for tomorrow night, and I'll know a lot more about Miami at this point. So let's see. Should Jaden Boeheim retire? He's not going to retire till after his son's gone, first of all. And second of all, here's what I have to say about that. The grass is not always greener on the other side. And my question for everybody that says it's time for Jim to go, what do you think Syracuse is going to go and get in place of him? Because Syracuse actually doesn't pay Jim Boeheim that much money compared to other big-name coaches in college basketball. He doesn't make anywhere near what Jay Wright makes at Villanova, not what Mike Krzyzewski makes at Duke. He doesn't. Plain and simple. So they should not. The grass isn't always greener because Jim Boeheim takes a massive pay cut because he loves the city, he loves the team, and he's been here for forever. He doesn't need to make, $8 million to stay. He's good with $1 or $2 million, and he'll live here forever. He'll live the rest of his life in Syracuse, New York. No doubt in my mind. This is his home. So in order to go get a large level coach like people want to go get Jay Wright from Villanova or something like that, you're talking upwards of $4-5 million that the Syracuse would have to pay him. And I'm sorry, Syracuse is not focused on athletics. You have to remember, this is an academic school, almost as good as an Ivy League level school academically. A lot better than a lot of schools out there that Syracuse plays against as far as academics go. Their main priority as a university where they put all of their money is into their academics. Syracuse is not going to pay a basketball coach $5 million. It's not going to happen. And they won't pay a football coach that either. It's just not going to happen. They don't invest in their athletics like they do their academics, which is completely understandable. So the grass is not always greener because who do you get? You'd have to get an up-and-coming, head coach. You'd have to start all over again. And I just feel like the grass is not always greener. We have Jim. We love Jim. It's a program. It will happen eventually. It obviously won't happen until Buddy's gone. And Jim said he plans on sticking around. Even he has no plans of retiring when Buddy's gone. So we could see Jim Boeheim for the next 10 years. And I really wouldn't be shocked as long as his health and everything else keeps up. So do I think he should retire? No. Do I think his styles are outdated? Do I think that Syracuse needs to be better recruiting wise? Yes. I don't think he's that great of a recruiter. And it proves. Mike Hopkins leaves, our recruiting goes like this. But we'll see. We'll see. All right. I want to get back to what I had to talk about here and really just dive right back into it. And we're talking the NFL divisional round playoff games. Doesn't get any better than this. What a weekend of football it was. What a fantastic weekend of football. Go ahead and comment in the section. What was your favorite playoff game this weekend to watch? And did your team win? Who are you a fan of? Did they win? And what was the best game to watch? I'd love to hear it. I'd love to address some of it. So go ahead and put it in there, and I'd love to hear it. So we'll talk the NFL divisional round playoffs. The Green Bay Packers, we'll start out with them. The Green Bay Packers beat the Los Angeles Rams 32-18, and this game wasn't even close. Green Bay's offense proved that they are absolutely elite as they went up against the number one defense in the NFL. And everyone was talking it's going to be this great battle. Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, this number one rated Rams defense versus Green Bay and this number one offense. Here's the thing. This Green Bay offense is not number one this year. It's not number one next year. It's not number one 3 years ago. It's number one of possibly this decade. It might be one of the best offenses that we've seen in 10 years of football. And I mean that. And they're scary good. But I'm not sold on them. I'm not. And I think the problems are on the defensive side. I think the problems are depth at wide receiver. But as far as just numbers, point production is what I'm talking about here. The numbers, they are one of the best this decade. Do I think they have problems at depth at wide receiver? Yes. I think Devontae Adams is good. I think that St. Brown is good. I think that Lazard is decent. He has dropping problems. But when you look at Buffalo, record of 13 different receivers catching a ball, there's nothing better. I went down the list earlier. Diggs, Beasley, John Brown, Gabriel Davis, Isaiah McKenzie. The running backs can catch the ball. The tight ends can catch the ball. It's the deepest in the National Football League. And then you go ahead and you look at other teams in the NFL, possibly the Chiefs. Tyreek Hill is at that level. Travis Kelce is the best tight end to play since Gronk in his prime, might be better. Kittle's very, very good, and people forget that. Didn't play this year. Kittle's very good. I'm under the belief that the better tight end is in Kansas City and Travis Kelce. But back to my point with Green Bay. Still an elite offense, and they played against the number one defense in the NFL, and they really torched them. Rodgers goes 23 for 36, 296 yards, 2 touchdown passes, and a rushing touchdown on the ground. Quarterback rating of 92.1. This was the best quarterback performance of the weekend by far. By far. Quarterback ranking, yards, touchdowns, all of it. It's the best quarterback performance of the weekend by far. 100%. Rodgers is elite. He's the MVP frontrunner, and he'll win it. And he proved it the other night against the number one defense in the league. That set it in stone for me. And I'm a Bills fan. I wanted Josh Allen to win it. I wanted Mahomes to win it again. But Aaron Rodgers had one heck of a season. 3 really good running backs on this team. Aaron Jones, 14 carries, 99 yards, and a touchdown, 7.1 yards per carry. He was a monster on the ground. Jamal Williams, 12 carries, 65 yards, 5.4 yards a carry. And then they have A.J. Dillon as well. And A.J. Dillon was a monster at Boston College in when he played in his college days, a young running back. He could have a future in the National Football League. So they're very deep at the running back position as far as talent goes. Looking at receiving, Allen Lazard led the way with 4 receptions, 96 yards, and a touchdown. Devontae Adams had 9 receptions, 66 yards, and a touchdown. 10 targets. He was targeted 10 times and only had 1 incomplete pass from Aaron Rodgers. And the yardage isn't insane, 66 yards, 1 touchdown, sure. But what this tells me is that Devontae Adams is unguardable against one of the best DBs in the league in Jalen Ramsey. That was the story. Jalen Ramsey versus Jamal Adams. Jamal Adams said going into this game, I'm not every wide receiver, Jalen. And he said it in a respectful way. Basically what he was saying is, let's go give these people a show. These people want to see us play. Let's go give them a show. Ride with me the entire game today, and let's give them a show. Let's play. And it was really cool to see, actually, because they gave each other props in that sense, and it was classy by Adams, but still saying he's not every receiver in the league. Proved that today because Jalen Ramsey just couldn't contain him. Only 1 incomplete pass out of 10. Incredible. Ramsey also didn't have a great performance. Only 4 tackles. One of them was a solo, nothing else. Not a single pass deflection. Nothing out of Jalen Ramsey. Goff didn't play too bad. Really didn't. 21 for 27, 174 yards, a touchdown, not a single interception. Made very, very few mistakes. And it just came down to their offense couldn't produce enough against Green Bay. It turned into a little bit of a shootout if you wanted to contest with Green Bay. Green Bay's defense was a little too much for them to handle, but more than anything, it was the Green Bay offense that was just that overpowered against this number one defense in the NFL. So I can't put the blame on Goff because he didn't play bad. 21 for 27, 174 yards isn't a lot, but he also had a touchdown and he made very few mistakes with no interceptions. Cam Akers had a big day on the ground for the Rams. 18 carries, 90 yards, and a touchdown. And Green Bay was just too good offensively. They make their statement, and they are going to the NFC Championship game. Let's take a look at what you guys have to say about some of this. Jaden says, Browns versus Chiefs was the best game, and that hit targeting to you. Yeah, and I was going to get into it. Looking at it, yeah, it's targeting. It's 100% helmet to helmet. Problem is, flag's not thrown. You can't add a flag after watching a replay. You just can't. So a lot of people are bringing up the point, make everything reviewable in the NFL. Just make everything reviewable. ESPN Greeny said that, Mike Greenberg today, and other people disputed it. That would take up too much time. It would waste a lot of time, take momentum away from teams. It would change the game too much. Games would become 5 hours instead of 3.5, 4 hours, and it would add up. Don't get me wrong. but you aren't giving teams any more challenges. So how many more reviews are there really going to be? Because they honestly review almost anything anyways, but you can't add a flag. Browns and Chiefs was the best game. It was pretty good. It was very good. I'd say Buffalo and Baltimore actually in the first half was really not that entertaining. It was a defensive battle. People like to see scoring. It was entertaining to me. I like defensive games as well. I love to see offense though. I'd say Browns versus Chiefs was the best game. Going into the fourth, I thought it was Saints and Bucks, but then Tampa Bay pulled away. Let's see. Rebecca says, Seahawks are my team and they lost, but the Rams-Packers games was great. Yeah, I had to make the point that I think it was actually the most boring game of the weekend. It wasn't a bad game by any means, but I'm sorry to see your Seahawks out. I would have way rather seen the Seahawks play the Packers than to see the Packers play the Rams. I knew the Rams didn't stand a chance. I mean, going into it, the Rams didn't stand a chance in my heart. But I'm sorry about your Seahawks for sure. This decade just started. It did. But what I'm saying is just collectively the last 10 years, this is one of the best offenses out there. Bills pick 6 because I love seeing good things happen to hashtag Bills Mafia. Hashtag Bills Mafia. How about it? Let's go Buffalo. Yes. And we're going to dive into that game for sure. That was what changed the game and won it. Darren Waller will be one of the best once he gets his run blocking down 100%. Darren Waller is a future star tight end in the National Football League, especially as a receiving tight end. He'll be a name up there with former Gronk and with the GOATs now in Travis Kelce and, of course, George Kittle. And I think he's probably the third best in the NFL. And then don't discredit Mike Gesicki in Miami. The right quarterback, Gesicki will be in that conversation too. So I think we're going to go a little bit past 7 o'clock tonight. If you guys want to continue to tune in, maybe about 10 minutes past. I hopped on about 5 minutes later. So that'd be great if you guys want to stick around. So next up on the list, you got to talk about the second game of the weekend. It was the Buffalo Bills and the Baltimore Ravens on Saturday night primetime in Orchard Park, New York at Bills Stadium. Who would have thought? The divisional round, Buffalo, it just absolutely incredible what Buffalo's accomplished this year. And I'm a Bills fan. I've lived the ride just as much as any Bills fan. It's been fantastic. I was wearing my Josh Allen jersey, yelling at the TV. Watched it on Zoom with my grandpa, who's a big Bills fan. It was great. But let's get into the nitty-gritty of the game. Buffalo's beat the Baltimore Ravens 17-3 final score. Josh Allen goes 23 for 37, 206 yards, and a touchdown. And the offense wasn't great in this game for either squad, but especially, obviously, the Baltimore Ravens. But for Buffalo, it wasn't what it's been all year. But the Baltimore Ravens had the second best defense in the NFL, playing fantastic football. And they forced turnovers, which Buffalo did not give away a single turnover the entire game, which is a huge accomplishment if you're the Buffalo Bills. Marlon Humphrey, one of the best DBs in the league. I mean, the list goes on and on for that team. They force fumbles. They intercept balls. They're one of the best. Peterson's fantastic as well. They're one of the best. And Buffalo didn't give the ball away, plain and simple. And they got the job done. And that drive out of halftime to go the length of the field and put in a touchdown, just chipping away. Allen was hitting digs. Allen was throwing dimes. It was great. The win was a factor for both kicking the game and quarterbacks. Both kickers missed field goals. Justin Tucker doinked 2 off the uprights, which is very, very uncharacteristic of him. Tyler Bass missed 2 kicks. One was an extra point. One was a field goal. The wind had a huge factor in this game. It was very apparent. You saw it on punts. The ball just died in the air and fell to the ground. I've never seen anything like it. So throwing the ball was a struggle for both quarterbacks, especially Josh, who airs it out. Ball just kind of carries and goes a little bit too far, and that's not like him. That's why you see 23 for 37. Again, not the best game, but got the job done. Devin Singletary, leading running with 7 carries and 25 yards. Not good. Not good for Buffalo, but I would bash on them if it weren't for the fact that their passing offense is so good. But hey, it's gotten them this far. Look how many teams they've beaten, right? They're a Hail Mary away from winning their last 12 or 13 games. I mean, it is a hot win streak for the Buffalo Bills. And I don't think running the ball is a problem for them. Unless it snows, running the ball is not a problem for them. And they have a quarterback that can run it if they absolutely need it. They're a passing team, and they don't shy away from that. Brian Daboll called a fantastic game at offensive coordinator because he let them throw the ball. He didn't change it up just because of a good defense. and play to the defense's strengths. He just said, we're Buffalo. We're going to play our own offensive football. We're going to throw the ball. That's what we do best. And they did it, and they won the game. Plain and simple. Steph Diggs, 8 receptions, 106 yards, and a touchdown. Route running was incredible. He was literally out there breaking ankles. I mean, plain and simple. His route running, he just makes any defensive back lose him. And Baltimore has some of the best in the league, and they just couldn't keep up with Stephon Diggs. 106 yards and a touchdown off of 8 receptions. Fantastic game out of him again. John Brown, 8 receptions, 62 yards. Gabriel Davis and Cole Beasley did not have a catch today. Combined for 6 total targets, did not have a catch against the Baltimore Ravens. I don't think it's cause for concern. Gabriel Davis kind of reminded you that he's a rookie a little bit with some of his, just his plays. Just reminded you that he's a rookie, but he's been sensational, especially for a 4th-round pick. Been a big surprise for Buffalo. Been a big target for Josh Allen. Beasley, the best slot receiver in the National Football League, statistic-wise, just wasn't very involved. Had a couple of big catches the week before against Indy, still suffering that injury a little bit, playing through it on the knee. Just a gritty, tough guy. Those two weren't involved. You'd like to see them get more involved in the next matchup, though, for sure. And then let's take a look at the real story in this game, though. The story is Sean McDermott, defensive-minded head coach, and defensive coordinator Leslie Frazier and the rest of the staff absolutely shutting down the Baltimore Ravens. Buffalo's not a big defense size-wise, but they're fast and extremely athletic, and they wrote up a game plan and were not scared of the Baltimore Ravens. They wrote up a game plan that was unstoppable. They absolutely shut down Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens, plain and simple. Held them to only 3 points on the game, and could have been 9. But there were no touchdowns, and there wasn't really any touchdown opportunities either. Lamar Jackson, 14 for 24 passing the ball, 162 yards and an interception. Got sacked 3 times, 4 total sacks for the Buffalo Bills. Carried the ball 9 times for 34 yards, and that's the biggest. 9 carries for 34 yards. Buffalo shut him down running the football. Longest run was 15 yards, and it really came down to the defensive end, Jerry Hughes, shutting down Lamar Jackson and containing him within that pocket. That's why he had 2 sacks on the day. TJ Huntley comes in the game for an injured Lamar Jackson with a concussion. Again, you hate to see it. Very, very you hate to see it. I didn't want to see it. I wanted Buffalo to win, don't get me wrong, but I want to see one of the best players in the National Football League play. It's fun to watch Lamar Jackson play football. That's why he was the MVP last year. And it was definitely a bummer to see him go out. Then TJ Huntley comes in, 6 for 13, 60 yards and a sack, but he played fantastic football. I mean, he had the opportunity to get that team in a situation to win it, possibly. The Bills defense showed up when they had to, made a couple mistakes. The wind carried on that one pass, which would have been 6 for the Ravens going the other way to Marquise Hollywood Brown. Huntley played a good game. Gus Edwards carried the ball, 10 carries, 42 yards, averaging 4.2. J.K. Dobbins had the same exact stats, 10 carries, 42 yards, averaging 4.2. Buffalo shut them down, and this is a running team. They run the football. That's what the Baltimore Ravens do. Leslie Frazier and this Buffalo defense did not let him do it. Mark Andrews, Lamar Jackson's main target. He was held in check by Matt Milano, the linebacker, with 4 receptions and 28 yards. Great job by Buffalo by shutting him down. He's Lamar's main target in the pass game, and he did not contribute much. Jerry Hughes, 2 sacks. Again, like I said, contained Lamar Jackson on the edge. Edmonds played great. Tremaine Edmonds out of Virginia Tech. Matt Milano played great, and the secondary was great for Buffalo. Talking about the game flow, it was back and forth defensively, and it looked like at the beginning of the game, Baltimore was like, oh no. Breaking off a couple on the first drive of the game for 10-plus yards, and you just kind of sat back and you're like, here we go if you're a Buffalo fan. And then all of a sudden, they just shut them down. Got a couple of breaks with the missed kicks by Justin Tucker, who, by the way, doesn't miss. One of the best in the current National Football League. Then it's just back-to-back defensively. Neither offense able to get anything going. Both defenses making great plays. Then Buffalo comes out of the second half firing. And it looked like Baltimore was pulling a little bit more momentum into the locker room. I will admit, I got nervous as a Bills fan. It looked like they were pulling momentum into the locker room, getting that field goal right before halftime. Then Buffalo comes out, draws it up in the locker room. Brian Daboll, genius. Buffalo comes down all the way down the field, scores a touchdown. They give the ball back to Baltimore, and it looks like Baltimore is about to tie the thing up. They go all the way down the field, 16-play drive. Lamar Jackson's in the red zone, about 13 yards out. It looks like a touchdown's all over the scoreboard. I mean, you could just see that this game was going to go into the fourth quarter. This was going to be one of those games because it looked like it was going to be tied right back again. And when it looked like Buffalo had the momentum, Baltimore took it back, and you just loved what you were seeing. Lamar Jackson drops back, doesn't see the lurking defensive back, and Taron Johnson picks off Lamar Jackson. Not only picks him off, takes it to the house, and Tre'Davious White was back there with him to make a block on Lamar Jackson, securing Taron Johnson to run that into the end zone. Pick six, and it changed the entire game. That's why Buffalo won this game. Plain and simple. Sensational play by Taron Johnson. He's really developed as the years gone along and become one of the best DBs on this Buffalo team. Just fantastic football out of Taron Johnson. And what an interception. It won the game for Buffalo because it looked like the game was all of a sudden going to be tied at 10. And then like that, in a matter of 5 seconds and one wrong read for Lamar Jackson, Buffalo was up 2 scores. And it was an 101-yard pick six. I mean, doesn't get better than that. Big play by Taron Johnson for the Buffalo Bills. And Buffalo, first AFC title appearance since 1993 will be this weekend. The NFL record, undefeated in the last 4 conference championship games. Will they make it 5? Well, they got a date against the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll see. We'll talk about it as the week progresses. 6,700 fans of Bills Mafia sounded like 70,000 fans. And Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth said it. It was a party in there. They were going nuts. It sounded like 70,000 fans, at least on TV. And I hope they weren't pumping crowd noise in. But just from the videos I've seen, the atmosphere looked incredible. I can't imagine what it would have been like on that pick six if that was a full Bills stadium. Would have been incredible at the Ralph. Hopefully someday. Hopefully someday very soon. I very truly hope that we will have full football stadium soon. I think that's the thing I miss more than anything is a full football stadium in the atmosphere of true sports. The crowd plays so much of an impact on a game, and you saw it with Buffalo. The 6,700 fans there, and you saw it in Kansas City. Wherever these teams have minimal amounts of fans, it makes a difference. It really does. Let's take a quick 30-second break, and we'll be right back. Again, wrapping things up. We're going to go an extra 15 minutes, and we're going to talk about the rest of the divisional games before we end the show. So we'll take a quick 30-second break. Hope you'll stick around, and we'll be back in 30. This is Sports Talk Live on Orange Sheet. Welcome back to Sports Talk Live on Orange Sheet. I'm Giovanni Heater, as always. Thanks so much for being here. Again, we're talking NFC, AFC, playoff football in the divisional round for the National Football League. Again, go ahead to XESSORYSPOT.com and pick up your Orange Sheet with Giovanni Heater t-shirt. That's accessoryspot.com, XESSORYSPOT. Go ahead and click the link in the description to call in. We'll talk about some sports, and we'll wrap things up in the next 15 minutes or so, talking about the games on Sunday. So let's start with the early game. The Kansas City Chiefs and the Cleveland Browns. What a game this was. Game of the week. I agree. Chiefs and Browns. The Chiefs overcome the Cleveland Browns, winning it 22-17. Fantastic football game. The Chiefs were strong early. Mahomes got that injury, concussion. Now they're saying possible neck nerves instead of concussion. I'll say this, and I'm not a doctor, obviously, but I've seen a lot of football, and 2 things happen when serious concussions take place. First, guys will go down and they kind of clinch up, not to mock, but they kind of clinch up. You see their fists kind of tweak out and clinch up. Mahomes did that. And then when he got up, wobbly, literally seemed like he didn't know where he was. Looked like a concussion to me. Now you can make the argument that nerve injuries can do the same kind of impacts, make you kind of lose control of your legs for a second or whatever. And there wasn't a huge head hit, but he did hit the front of his head on the ground, I think it's a concussion. And if they called it a concussion and he's going through concussion protocol, probably a concussion. But if it's not, we'll see. The other thing, he was withstanding some turf toe throughout the game as well, which was very much so impacting him. And Buffalo can use that to their advantage because if Mahomes isn't going to run next week, because I think Mahomes is going to play. I'll just say it. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to play on Sunday. This is the NFL. This is a chance to go back-to-back Super Bowls. Kansas City is going to do everything within their power for Patrick Mahomes to play football on Sunday. Plain and simple. I think Patrick Mahomes will take the field against the Buffalo Bills. And why wouldn't you want it that way? This is a story. Two of the best young quarterbacks going at it. You know, if you're Buffalo, you don't want to, to be the best, you got to beat the best. You want to beat the Kansas City Chiefs when they have Mahomes. You don't want to beat them when they're playing Chad Henne. It's just not the same. And if you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan, of course you want your starting quarterback in there. Mahomes is going to play on Sunday. That's just my opinion, and a lot of people would agree as well. Again, the Chiefs started out strong early. Chad Henne comes in, saves the day after Patrick Mahomes goes out. And listen, Henne, he made a mistake with that throw on the interception, and that gave Cleveland a lot of momentum to go down the field. But besides that, Henne was good, and he got the job done, and he put the team on his shoulders. Really, he did. And that was a bad decision to throw that pass. Should have never thrown it, but he just kind of had the mindset, this is the play call. It's 1st and 25. I'm hucking it, see what happens. Basically an arm punt at that point. The unfortunate thing, it was first down. The Chiefs, though, again, big plays out of Chad Henne. Saves the day. Played at Michigan, been in the NFL for a long time. 3rd and 14, that run on 3rd and 14 is a history kind of play. Dives for the, just shows that toughness and that grit, diving for the first down yardage, doesn't get it, 4th and inches. Nobody thinks they're snapping the ball. Tony Romo didn't think so. Nobody thought in that stadium that they were snapping the football, trying to draw them off sides, possibly take a timeout, take a delay game, then punt the ball. And then they snap the ball. Andy Reid has the confidence in his backup quarterback to deliver a strike to Tyreek Hill, and it was an easy first down. They made it look easy. Nobody thought they were going to snap it. They do. What a gutsy play call out of Andy Reid and the Chiefs, and it pays off because that sealed the game. Shout out to Chad Henne for a fantastic performance. Patrick Mahomes had one heck of a game before getting injured. 21 for 30, 255 yards, 1 touchdown pass, 1 touchdown run, and 14 rushing yards. What a game. I mean, right up there. Rodgers, I said, had by far the best game. Mahomes is in second place on the weekend. No Clyde Edwards-Helaire for the Kansas City Chiefs. They won't have him again against the Bills. A big loss for them, but Darrell Williams has played good football, 13 carries, 78 yards, and running the ball when they need it. And man, if Mahomes can't play, are they going to have to try and run the ball with Darrell Williams? So they need him to play good without Clyde Edwards-Helaire in there. What a difference maker Edwards-Helaire is. Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, you can't say enough about how they lead this team and what the game they had. Tyreek Hill, 8 receptions, 110 yards. Kelce, 8 receptions, 109 yards, and a touchdown out of Travis Kelce. Those guys are elite. 2 of the best in the National Football League. And wow, as a Bills fan, I'm nervous for those two. No matter who's throwing the ball. If it's Mahomes, even worse. But if it's Henne, he still has Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce to throw the ball to. You can't guard those guys. You can't. Nobody's fast as Tyreek Hill. Luckily, Buffalo's extremely fast in the secondary and just speedy overall as a team. They're smaller, but they're fast. So though Kansas City's going to be bigger and more physical, at least Buffalo's really, really fast and try and keep up with a guy like Tyreek Hill. Tough thing will be taking down a guy like Travis Kelce. It's going to be up to Tremaine Edmonds in the middle at linebacker to really, really get that done. But great game out of those two. The defense was able to force some pressure. Tyrann Mathieu had that interception, so they did their job and they got the victory. I want to talk about the Browns, though. The Browns played fantastic football. Baker Mayfield played a great game. 23 for 37, 204 yards, and an interception, but also a touchdown. They ran the ball well. Kareem Hunt had six rushes for 32 yards. Nick Chubb had 13 carries for 69 yards. The wide receivers played great for the Browns. Rashad Higgins, 5 receptions, 88 yards. Landry was locked down a little bit, 6 receptions, 20 yards. But how about the tight ends? David Njoku had 4 receptions for 59 yards, and Austin Hooper only 2 receptions for 16 yards, but he had that huge diving catch on 4th down and 2. It doesn't get any better than that when you are Hooper. The Browns needed that. They were desperate for it, and it was a fantastic pitch and catch between Baker Mayfield and Hooper. So the Browns played a really, really, really good game. And Myles Garrett defensively is so fast, and very, very good. The future for the Cleveland Browns is extremely, extremely bright. Kevin Stefanski is the man at head coach. Baker Mayfield is the man at quarterback. The future is bright for Cleveland. They're going to make another run next year. Watch out for the Browns in 2021, 2022, next season. They're going to be very, very good, and they can't hang their heads too much. They almost had this game. The defense couldn't make a stop when they needed to, and the Kansas City offense, led by Chad Henne, made it happen. Game flow, again, Kansas City started out hot and really kept it hot. But then Cleveland had that little bit of momentum, and the injury was huge. They were able to score a touchdown, and they had that interception. Should they have punted it? Probably not. They probably should have gone for it. And if you're Mahomes, they would have definitely gone for it, because if they had Mahomes in the game, they're going for it. Because the last thing you want to do is give Patrick Mahomes a football. He'll go down and score a touchdown on you. So because they had Henne, because the defense had the momentum and were playing well, they punted it. It's tough. I mean, hindsight's 2020, right? Hindsight's 2020. Should have gone for it. You couldn't get that final stop over Kansas City, and that's what cost the game. Chad Henne was great, and the Chiefs are hosting their 3rd straight AFC Championship game at Arrowhead Stadium. They'll play the Buffalo Bills on Sunday. Now, we'll take a 30-second break, and we'll wrap things up with Tom Brady and the Buccaneers taking down Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints. We'll see you in 30 seconds. This is Sports Talk Live on Orange Sheet. Welcome back here to Sports Talk Live on Orange Sheet. I'm Giovanni Heater, as always. Thanks so much for being here, whether you're on YouTube Live, Facebook Live, or Twitch. Thanks so much for tuning in. Again, go to XESSORYSPOT.com and go ahead and pick up your very own Orange Heat with Giovanni Heater t-shirt. Again, I appreciate the support. Go over to accessoryspot.com, XESSORYSPOT.com, and pick up your Orange Heat with Giovanni Heater t-shirt. Now, wrapping up the show, let's talk about the final game last night, and this was probably the second best game of the week. It was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking down the New Orleans Saints at the Superdome 30-20. What a story going into this game. Tampa Bay had lost to New Orleans twice throughout the year. Once it was when week 1, and it was a close-ish game, and then they got absolutely throttled by the Saints in week 9, and the Saints won big against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Wasn't the case, and a lot of people said, Tom's not going to lose twice. Well, he did. Tom's not going to lose 3 times. 3rd time's the charm for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they proved that. What Tom Brady has done with this organization has never been done before. So many quarterbacks have gone somewhere else at the end of the career. Favre goes to the Jets. Montana leaves and goes to play for the Chiefs. All of this. And nobody has done what Tom Brady is doing in Tampa Bay. Taking a team that has not seen the playoffs in a very long time, since the Super Bowl that was brought to them in 2006 by the man that is now the head coach again of the Las Vegas Raiders, hasn't been done since then. Hasn't been done since John Gruden was the head man. And Tom Brady brings them to the NFC Championship game. Not just makes the playoffs, not just winning in the wild card, not just winning in the divisional round. He's going to the NFC Championship. And he's setting up one of the best games that you'll see in a long time. And cherish it. Because you don't know when you'll see a matchup like Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady again. Yes, there's a new generation of new quarterbacks, but these guys are slowly going away. Slowly. Breeze is done this year. Roethlisberger, what's the future hold for him? How much longer does Brady have in the tank? Is it 1 more year? Is it 2 more years? Is it 5 more years? I mean, you got to think within the next 5, Brady's going to be done too. Rodgers a little younger, but he's still in that era of these quarterbacks. It's a fight against time for these guys, and it's catching up to Breeze. It's catching up to Roethlisberger. Caught up to Rivers. What's the future for Phillip Rivers? Time's catching up. Time's ticking for these guys. Cherish the matchup on Sunday between Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. Might be the last. Just as far as, playoff caliber NFC championship, it might be the last huge game between those legends, future Hall of Famers, that we'll see. Cherish it. Enjoy the game. Tampa Bay beats New Orleans 30-20 inside the Superdome in the divisional round. As I said, Brady was fantastic. 18 for 33, 199 yards, 2 touchdowns. Not a single interception, was only sacked once. The offensive line held up well for him, and it was a great game out of Tom Brady. Now, was he the reason that they won? Yes, because of what he brings to the organization. But the MVP of this team is the defense. Tom Brady got it done offensively. The defense gave them the opportunities. This was a team win right here, and it's because of what Tom Brady brings to the organization. I want to address this question right here, and I see your guys' comments here. I want to address this. I'm sorry for just seeing this. If Rashad Higgins would have reached for the pylon in that moment, if you were Rashad Higgins, that fumble changed the game. And sorry to go back to the previous game. I just saw this, and I want to address it. That fumble changed the game. If Cleveland scores that touchdown, and then they score the other one, they actually have it a tied game or a lead. And they control the game over Kansas City. And then you have Chad Henne playing to win, not to close. Very different. So if Rashad Higgins doesn't do that, it's a touchdown. But if I'm Rashad Higgins, would I reach for the pylon? Yeah, it's your instinct to try and score that touchdown. And it should have been a targeting. And I think the rule should stay. People are talking about change the rule, touchback. Like, no, it's a touchback. You fumbled it and it goes out of the back of the end zone. That's always been the rule. Don't change football, But if I'm Rashad Higgins, Kevin Stefanski said in the press conference they actually have a rule for their football team. The rule is don't do that. He did it. He made a young man rookie kind of mistake. He's not a rookie, but a rookie kind of mistake. Dove for the pylon. Yeah, I probably would have. He's trying to score. It's a playoff game. You put your body on the line when it's the playoffs. Want to go back to the Saints and the Bucs. Should the Saints cut Jared Cook after that fumble? No. It happens. You're going to cut you're going to cut Baker Mayfield. He threw a pick. Are you going to cut Josh Allen for some overthrows? Are you going to cut Lamar Jackson for throwing that pick? Jared Cook's really good, and he's a good tight end. And the Saints have a good tight end in Jared Cook for the future. He's still young. No, you don't cut Jared Cook. But no, I do appreciate the comment, absolutely, and bringing it up. I just think that you can't cut him for one play because there were other mistakes. Breeze threw 3 interceptions. It's not just Cook, though it wasn't a good fumble. Tom Brady, big game. Got to talk about Leonard Fournette. MVP of the offense, 100%. Over 100 all-purpose yards. Carried the ball 17 times for 63 yards. Receiving-wise for Leonard Fournette, he was the second leading receiver with 5 receptions for 44 yards and a touchdown. Leonard Fournette had himself a day after really not being the star back for this offense at all throughout the season. That went to Ronald Jones and a couple of the other guys on the squad throughout the year, but Leonard Fournette had a day. Ronald Jones rushing the ball had 13 carries, 62 yards. Great day on the ground, too, when they needed him. And those two really kind of split carries as well. Tom Brady ran the ball 5 times for 2 yards. 5 times for Tom Brady to get out of the pocket and run with the ball. That's once-in-a-lifetime stuff. He doesn't do that. Receiving-wise for Tampa Bay, Cameron Brate had a heck of a game, 4 receptions for 50 yards. And people forget about him a little bit because, how he's so buried on the depth chart, but they got a great rookie wide receiver on this team. Fournette, as I said, 5 receptions, 44 yards. Godwin, 4 receptions, 34 yards. Scotty Miller, a reception, 29 yards. Tyler Johnson, same thing. Gronk had a catch for 14. Brown had only 1 reception for 10 yards. Have to wonder if there's an injury with Brown. Seemed to come out of the game. Mike Evans was locked down. They played really good. New Orleans did defensively. against them, and you have to go to Marcus Lattimore for that. Marcus Lattimore played one heck of a game in the secondary. I mean, he was sensational, in on every play, swatting balls down. He played a remarkable game, and he had a really good play up over Mike Evans, who was trying to catch a deep ball. It was a good throw by Brady. Better play by Marcus Lattimore. Looking at the Saints, Breeze, 19 for 34, 134 yards, a touchdown, and 3 interceptions. You just don't want to see him go out that way. It's unfortunate. Some mistakes. How about Jameis Winston? Going 1 for 1, 56-yard tutty to the house. Jameis Winston, they throw him in there, kind of playing that Taysom Hill role today. The Saints were without Taysom Hill, and he fit that role. That throw showed that he can still do some stuff, but it's big. It's big. I want to show a comment here, breaking. Musgrove to the San Diego Padres. Wow. That is big. I'm not a big baseball guy. Have to learn a lot more for the purpose of this show. Luckily, it's not baseball season. That is big. Let me talk about that on Wednesday. Let me bring that up again on Wednesday. Do some more. I know the name. I know the Padres. I know what they have given away, what they've been able to succeed lately as well. How about the Mets with some of their pickups too? Could be a new generation of baseball coming. Let me get back to you on that on Wednesday. I appreciate the comment. Back to the NFC divisional round between the Bucs and the Saints. Just a great game overall. 20-20 going into the fourth quarter. Exactly what everyone expected. And the Bucs prevail. Alvin Kamara had a good game for the Saints, though. Carried it 18 times for 85 yards. Also had 3 receptions for 20 yards. So he goes over 100 yards all-purpose, just like on the other side Leonard Fournette did. Montgomery had a couple of carries. Receiving-wise, you look at what Michael Thomas was able to do, and it was zilch. Targeted 4 times, 0 catches, and 0 yards. Shut down in this game. Absolutely. That's great by the Tampa Bay defense. Kamara had great production. Cook had 5 receptions, 28 yards, and Emmanuel Sanders had 6 receptions, 48 yards. Got to talk about the defense, though, for Tampa Bay. That linebacking core is legit. Devin White, 11 total tackles. 10 of them were solo tackles, 1 tackle for loss. They were able to force 4 total turnovers. Levante David had 1 heck of a game as well. Ndamukong Suh had a good game. Jason Pierre-Paul. I mean, the list goes on and on. These guys came to play. And the Tampa Bay defense is going to give Aaron Rodgers some trouble next week. We're going to get into predictions and matchups as the week goes along for the AFC and NFC championship games this weekend. But look out of your Green Bay, because this Tampa Bay defense has clicked at the right time, and this is not the first game they've done so. The offense is clicking at the right time. What Tom Brady has brought to this organization is everything. It is his organization at this point. Ryan Suckup, 3 for 3 for field goals, 3 for 3 extra points. You can't ask for more out of kicker. Will Lutz goes 2 for 2. Can't ask for more out of kicker. So great by both of them. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. That's really all I got to wrap up the show here today. Again, keep tuning in later on in the week. We're not going to do a show tomorrow because we're going to have the SU basketball game tomorrow night for you. Syracuse playing host to the Miami Hurricanes inside the Carrier Dome. A big matchup for SU as they look to respond. They've lost 3 out of the last 4. That one big win over Georgetown. All games have been close, but Syracuse falls to Pittsburgh once, North Carolina, and all games have been close until the last one, when Syracuse lost by 20 in the second matchup against the Pittsburgh Panthers. So, Syracuse and Miami go at it tomorrow in the Dome. The Orange will look to bounce back. I'll be on the call for you. That game tips off at 7 o'clock right here on Orange Heat. So we'll see you then. Then we'll see you again for more Sports Talk Live on Wednesday. And we'll see you again on Thursday, Sports Talk Live, Friday, so on, as we'll talk a lot of NFL. We'll get into some baseball, talk some NBA, but a lot to talk about with the National Football League. That's the biggest thing going on right now, plain and simple. And I can't wait to really dive into the top 5 destinations coming later on this week for Deshaun Watson. So that's a big story in the National Football League. You have the AFC NFC Championship. It's a good week to be a football fan and a sports fan in general. I'm just grateful every day that have this opportunity, one, to talk with you, but also that sports are taking place, right? It's COVID, and these people are putting their lives on the line, and there's a lot of money at stake, and that's a big part of it, but nonetheless, we have sports to watch. So thank you to the players, coaches, and athletes, because without it, I don't know what we'd be talking about on here today. So thanks so much for tuning in, guys. As always, head over to accessoryspot.com, XESSORYSPOT.com, and go ahead and pick up your very own Orange Heat with Giovanni Heater t-shirt. Till then, we'll see you next time. I'm Giovanni Heater, and this has been a broadcast from Orange Heat. It's Sports Talk Live on Orange Heat. Have a good night.